All right, okay, let's get started. Hello and good morning. Welcome to Offset episode 51. My name is Ryan Selvy. This is the show where we talk to artists about their work, their process, and their inspiration. My name is Ryan Selvy, and I'm your host. I'm a motion designer and an illustrator, and I have the pleasure of being joined today by Kelsie Dayna. She is a Hawaiian-based artist, and she makes these incredible murals and illustrations. And I'm not going to talk her up too much because I'm going to let herself talk it up. But please welcome Dayna to the show. Hey, good morning.
Hi everyone. Morning. Yeah, it's 7 a.m. in the morning here. So
Yeah, that is so wild to me. So if you have low energy at all, everyone can just be quiet because it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
no, I'm good. I'm ready to go.
But great. Okay, so we're gonna start off with our very first segment, which is a great introduction to you, and it's called Elevator Pitch. So here we go. So I have this cute little Pomodoro timer that I convinced myself that I was going to use all the time, but then I realized that I'm not very good at doing Pomodoro. So we're going to use it for this segment.
Okay.
And I'm going to put 1 minute on here for you.
Okay.
And then we're going to give you 1 minute to kind of just introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about.
Sure.
So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, ready, set, go.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Kelsie Dayna. I'm a freelance artist and illustrator. I was born and raised here in Honolulu, Hawaii. Relatively speaking, I'm kind of new to the whole art scene. I've been doing it about 2 years now. I actually lost my corporate marketing job during the pandemic. And so what kind of started as a hobby to kind of cope with all the change in my life has turned into this really awesome and beautiful career that I have now. I work primarily with local businesses here in Hawaii, but I've had the opportunity to also work with some larger corporate brands, which has been a huge learning experience and a growth opportunity for me. I do work mostly in digital art, but I've had the opportunity to, get my hands into some mural work, which I really love and hope to do more of in the future and in the coming year.
All right, we're at our floor. I feel like that was really concise. That was
yeah.
perfect.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Also, I'm so happy you lost your job.
Yeah.
That's the weirdest thing to say, but
it is. Yeah.
I
don't think I would have left that job had it not happened to me, if that makes sense. So in many ways, I'm grateful it happened. So.
But and then now we're here, and I'm really excited to show everybody off your work. We have a bunch of people in the chat, both on YouTube and on Behance. If you guys are watching this as a replay, we're going to still make it worth your while. So don't go anywhere if you're watching the replay. But to everyone that is actually here right now, hello to Oliver and Gareth, Robert and Rick. Thank you guys for tuning in. Also to Sean, Bruce, and Jack. Also over on YouTube, we have Aesthetic Girly and Used Food. Also, Ashutosh Verma. And thank you, CJ, for being our moderator. But obviously, it'd be very helpful if we can check out some of your work. So let's look at your work. Let's look at your work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pull up your Instagram because that's actually where I found you first. I think I found you through a reel that was
awesome.
Like one of your murals. But on Instagram, you're Kelsie Dayna, and you have a really good collection of both illustrations and also now you have your reels that you're doing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, the social media has been like huge to my growth, as I feel like most people these days. So it's really kind of been my online portfolio, if you will, and really a way for me to connect with, artists and and other people out there. So I'm grateful for social media. But yeah, I try to keep my art just kind of fun and colorful. So I did a series on the 12 Days of Christmas, local style. So these are all from a local Hawaiian song about the 12 Days of Christmas. And so I kind of drew every day out. It was a challenge. Just I know it was only 12, but it really pushed myself creatively with that one. And I think it came out great.
And next up, we're going to have you sing through all 12.
Please don't. Please don't.
Which of your favorite, which of these 12 are your favorite from the series?
Yeah, I mean, I gravitate obviously towards people a lot. So, I mean, the ukulele one obviously was one of my favorites. It's just kind of joyful and fun, and you kind of get it without it being like so literal with like 8 ukuleles. So, yeah, I mean, that one probably was my favorite of the bunch. But
and 11 is Tutu. What is Tutu?
oh, so that's the song. Tutu gave to me instead of I don't know what the original what is
My True Love, right?
True Love, right. So the local one is Tutu, which is a grandma in Hawaiian. So
oh, cute.
That's the spin on the song.
Wealthy grandma, right?
Yeah, so this one I adapted a little bit from the original song, which talks about, I think, 11 missionaries. So yeah, I changed that one up a bit, but yeah.
And also in the chat, Bruce is asking if poi is candy.
It's not candy. It is ground up kalo or taro, and kind of eat it as like a side dish. So it's kind of like a pasty consistency, but
do you like it?
I love it. Yeah, yeah.
It's good.
It's kind of expensive, but it's worth it. So yeah.
And then how did you come up with a color scheme for all of them? Because they all feel very cohesive.
I wish I had a scientific way to tell you how I do it, but I kind of just go on my gut, like feeling. And then I try really hard to stick to it throughout, which I know sometimes can be hard. You're like, oh, well, people aren't pink or they're not orange colored or whatever. But in the end, it helps. Yeah.
It lands. Robert's also making a comment in the chat saying that he likes your color palette.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I try to have like a blue, a dark color, and then, some yellows or oranges too. That's kind of generally where I lean towards creatively. But yeah.
And is that anything that, like, when you're working on it, do you like put in colors and then like adjust sliders or something to kind of make them a little bit more dramatic, or is it fully by eye?
Fully by eye, at least for that one. For client work, I might do it more, more methodically, but yeah, if it's just a personal project, yeah, I just kind of go with it. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's just a personal project that you did recently, which is cool.
Yes.
Another thing that you've been doing a lot is you've been doing tabling and you've been creating print work, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's like a whole nother beast. I mean, you really appreciate, what goes on behind the scenes of like, just even a simple table setup like that. It's just like ordering inventory and like, how are you going to accept payment? And, you also kind of want to manage like, what is the feel of my booth too? So there's like that aspect too. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, I get to meet people, which, in this industry or my career, like it's kind of hard to do otherwise. So I don't have like a storefront or anything. So it's really great to do these events, and, they've brought in a lot of new business prospects too. So if anybody out there is thinking about doing it, you should definitely give it a try. So
that's actually, we're going to come right back to let's look at your work. But there is one segment that we have that's called Next Question that I want to hop into really quick.
Oh, sure.
Next question.
So this is a segment where we have each of our guests ask a question to their next guest. And this is coming from the previous guest.
Okay.
And without mentioning who it was or anything. Your question is, describe the moment you felt confident in selling your own work.
Oh gosh, I still struggle with being confident. Honestly, selling my artwork, it's so vulnerable. But I think the turning point for me was like, I think the end of my first year, I was like asked to do a market, and I initially told the girl no because I was like too afraid, not ready, like this I'm not ready. So, but at the end of the day, I told myself, what do I have to lose, right? So I told her yes, and like saying yes to that opportunity, like opened so many more doors for me. It led to my first and my second mural, and it led me to a client who is now my biggest wholesale client. So
No way.
yeah. So had I not said yes to that first market, I probably would not have done a lot of things. So
It's having that first jumping off point.
yeah. So I think a lot of it is just kind of taking risks. You have to. I mean, you never know what's out there until you do it. So
That's
yeah,
a great answer.
that was a moment
Now,
for
do you
me.
have a question for the next guest?
I do. I think the question would be like, how do you find your unique style and voice in an industry that has so many, great artists and great creatives out there? So yeah, kind of just how do you figure out your style and honing in on that, like tips for that, I guess. So
Great question. That's
yeah.
awesome. I do want to hop back to actually real quick with some of your tabling. You do a
Oh,
really
sure.
good job at documenting your experience.
Hmm.
And you also have a really good way of actually making it accessible for people who have never done it before, or
Yeah.
even professionals that have done it, that, you're
Uh-huh.
finding cool hacks.
Right.
Um, are these just things that you've experimented with, or are you like on Pinterest figuring out ways
No,
to make
I've
these?
had zero success on Pinterest or online finding like quick, easy, tricks like this. So,
Mhm.
I was at another market and I saw this uncle had his like plant stand and he had like two big like cans of soup and he had his board across. I was like, that's genius. Like it's so simple, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it helped so much. And so I just try to like not gatekeep that stuff. Like if it can help you, I'm gonna share it. And so, because I didn't know how to do this, and I don't have the space, or I don't really want to spend a lot of money on these big fancy setups. So
Right.
I have it at home, and it's easy and it's minimal. And yeah.
And it's such a culture. Like done a few tabling, and I've also done a
Mhm.
few like just being a attendee at
Yeah.
different conferences.
Uh-huh.
And it's always so crazy. Like you can tell who is doing it very regularly, who
Yes.
is there for the very first time,
Yes. Really.
and like who kind of phones it in. And
Yeah.
like that's
And
not to say that it, makes any bad
no. Yeah.
experience, but it's like some people you're like, oh wow, this is clearly like your 50th
Yeah,
convention of some
right. And
kind.
and a lot of times too, it's like, when you do these more often, you see a lot of the same other businesses out there. So it's good camaraderie in many ways. Again, potential business opportunities, but yeah, it's a lot from setup and packing and breaking down and everything in between. So yeah,
Do you have a favorite tip that you've kind of discovered for tabling?
yeah, for me, the biggest one is like prepping my table before I go. So, like
Hmm.
at home in the living room, I'll just set it up. And that way helps me realize, okay, what do I need? What do I not need? And then I can pack it all up right there. And so I don't forget anything.
Yeah.
Again, it's because I don't do it regularly as maybe some other people. So it's helpful for me. People who are more seasoned may already got their checklist in their head and he's ready to go. But for me, that helps. So
What I also really love is I love your fabrics that you use, that they
yeah,
match the colors of your piece.
yeah. I
Where
mean,
did you
some
get
of
those?
those are like vintage fabrics from my grandma.
No way, really?
Yeah, well, not the purple one, but the orange one, and it
Yeah.
fits my aesthetic and my style. So I love to use it, and people have even asked me if I was like selling it at one point too. But
Well,
yeah, so
obviously
I
not.
like to use like unique pieces, and again, kind of like envisioning what is the feel of your booth too. So little things like that help, I think.
Yeah, what can you communicate before like anyone even walks up? Because you always do that thing too where you have to be like, "Hi,
Yeah,
hey," and you like
right.
make eye contact with people, and people are like also like trying not to
Yeah,
make eye contact so they don't
yeah,
have to walk up and buy
yeah,
anything.
yeah. It's a good social experience, to just kind of like I don't want to pressure anybody to buy anything, but I don't want to be like not friendly, and I don't, so it's just kind of like getting used to the whole, talking to customers and really just, getting your face out there, really.
No, that's a
Yeah.
quite another layer of things.
Yeah,
This
totally.
actually, this might even be one of the first ones that I saw of yours,
Hmm.
which is the using things as they're not intended.
Yeah.
Um, and this I thought was such a great piece of social media.
Yeah.
Um, just because, yeah, like you can go and you can search for convention stuff, but
Right.
the
But then
most
it's like you don't really get what you're looking for. Like you're like, what can I use? That's like, I'm so resourceful. Like I want to use what I have, right? And so just kind of, yeah, like a plate rack, like for your prints. Like I can go down to Ross or Target and pick one of those up, or a nail polish holder for your stickers and stuff. So yeah, it's really just about being resourceful and using what works. Yeah.
I also imagine you like running around with your kids and like picking up after them and then being like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
This can be used at like a
Yeah.
convention.
Yeah, totally, totally. Yeah. Your toy basket, I'm using that for my prints or
Yep.
whatever. Yeah.
And then okay, so we touched a little bit on like actual like illustrations that you
Yes.
had. We also have talked about conventions, but there's one more piece that I think takes a lot of bravery. Real
Oh,
quick, this is separate from it too.
yeah.
These are so cute with like kids' toys. But the murals is something
Yes.
that really I think takes a whole nother set of
Uh-huh.
bravery. How did you get into
Mhm.
that?
Yeah. So, like I said, that first market job I took was with, uh, an old high school classmate. And so she had a little kids cafe, and, she wanted to put up a mural on her wall. So she had reached out to me, and I was so scared, like, oh my God, this is a huge wall. Like, I don't know. But again, it's just kind of taking that risk. I said yes. And then that led to my next job, which, you build experience under your belt. And, I haven't done a lot. Like, I'm not like a seasoned muralist, but I've realized it's something that I really enjoy doing. I think it's just something about working with your hands and like seeing that instant gratification of like something so large scale come to life.
Now,
But
do you
yeah,
use the tile method or do you use a projector? Do you just kind of
um,
freeform it?
for most of them, I used a projector. For one, my projector was not working, so I had to do it by like kind of like a grid system. It was on a brick wall, so I like had to like count all the bricks out and like okay, and they were all square pieces, so it worked out nicely. Yeah, that is the hardest part of the mural is just the transferring of the design to the wall. So
Now, is that
um,
something you want to market yourself more
yeah, I
to
think
create?
so. I think so. Yeah. Oh, that's the one that had the brick wall side. Yeah, it's so fun. It's scary and it takes a lot of time in the moment, but when you can like step back and look at it, it's so rewarding. So yeah, I definitely want to do more of that in the future, just to build my experience too with it. And this was my only like semi outdoor mural. Most of them were indoors, so I haven't really had to deal with things like weather and sunlight and you know. But yeah, definitely hope to do more of that in the future.
No, it's exciting also, and like I know Bruce is saying in the chat that you wouldn't know that was your first one by seeing your work.
Oh,
And it's I
yeah,
definitely agree. It seems like you kind of just like not have beginner's luck, but you just have the talent in order to just go and be like, all right,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
create
yeah. I
something
love it
great.
so much too. So it works out
Um,
great.
and then also, yeah, just your ability to be able to kind of pivot, and if like your projector's not working, still be able to make it work
Yeah,
is
I
very
was I was
valuable.
stressing that day, like, oh my God, and it was raining, and things just like, oh, where's my power source coming from, or like, how far back do I need my projector to be, or do I have enough paint? I think that first mural, the other mural, I ran out of paint for the background, so I had to like run back to the store to grab more. So there's a lot of logistics involved with mural work, but yeah, it's a learning experience. So each time I feel like, okay, remember to do that, remember to do this. So yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of process and the idea of having something from beginning to end, we'd like to have a segment where we have a take a look into your sketchbook.
Oh,
Ooh, what's in your sketchbook?
So I know you had scanned a few shots for us to check out. Do you normally feel like you have to work small scale and sketch something out before it gets into like these bigger pieces,
yes,
or
absolutely.
is it like you just kind of need to put something small and then the real thing comes to life?
Yeah, for me, it's more. Oh, there we go. It's more about just getting my ideas out, and so like how. Wait, sorry. Let me see if I can do this full screen. Yeah. So for me, it's really about like how can I get my ideas out. So again, these are just super rough drafts. I like to write a lot of words on there, like just to get my brain thinking of other imagery that could come from it. So this is one I did for a client, which was a healthcare clinic. So I'm gonna just go through and then hopefully see what it led to the final product.
Oh, too cool.
Yeah, so the top one on the left with the people, you can see how the original idea translated to the final product. And again, they don't really look like each other, but just the composition and overall layout.
It's also interesting, like, to see, and we'll get into this in just a little bit, but
Yeah.
how your representation of people has changed over
Yeah.
time and the
Yeah.
style that you have to represent them.
Yeah, I feel like it's always been a struggle. I mean, to again find your style and what does that look like. And obviously, yeah, in the way I draw people has changed, but I still feel like I'm trying to refine that more. This
You have
was
a little bit
other.
of a jigsaw down there, by the way.
I have a jigsaw.
Like,
Oh,
Jigsaw the clown, with the big
oh,
teeth in the previous one. There was one
yeah.
on the previous slide.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Yeah.
But right there he is. Yeah, the
Yeah,
bottom
so
left.
I just draw whatever, even if it's nothing related to, what I need to draw. It's
Yeah.
kind of just getting it out, getting my hand moving. This was again another like icon set that I did for a client. Yeah, so I use a lot of words. And then again, a lot of it is just me finding the right composition and then refining that later in the next stage.
And are these things that you normally scan directly into,
Yeah,
so you can work on top of, or
yeah,
do you recreate
yeah.
them?
That's typically what I do, unless it's simple enough where I can just recreate it.
Right.
Yeah, so this was another one I did for a PokeFest event. Yeah, so it's just kind of just getting the ideas out. These are some personal projects I did. Just kind of what they turned into, and again for like let's say the one with the animals, like I try to draw like my canvas, and then how do I fit the pieces I want within that canvas. So
Yeah,
like
no, it's
composition.
crazy to see that, like, yeah, you kind of have both one that has a full composition that has everything pulled
Right,
together, and then you have
right,
one where it's like, oh, okay, they're kind of like just things that I know that I want to have
right.
represented, but I can kind of assign them
Adapt it.
elsewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and
don't
it's
know.
also cool how you're playing with contrast with, like, obviously working in pen or
Mhm.
ink of some kind,
Right.
um, and then later having that still follow through with your work, like,
Yeah.
to still have that high contrast, which is nice.
Yeah, and like I said, colors, like I'll make notes about colors or concepts or things like that. So yeah,
Do you
that's
have a
about
favorite one of the one that you've shown us from the sketchbook here?
um probably this Malama the Aino one. I think the composition just came out so perfectly that had I not sketched it out, I don't know if I would have been able to execute it as nicely. So
And what is that? The Malama.
Malama, the Aina just means like Malama is to like take care, and then Aina is like the land. So, take care of the land and life. So
Yeah, because you
yeah.
were born and raised in Hawaii, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's very cool to see that you are able to take your work and you're able to kind of make a cool representation and be able to bring parts that are important to you into your work.
Yeah, and I think that again kind of just goes to like telling your story, as an artist or creative, like, how do you view life, where do you come from, and then obviously it pours through your work. And so that's something I always try to keep in mind of, and I think it's also a great way to build community. So like, you connect with others who are from the same space, and then also reach out to people who are not familiar with where you come from. So
yeah, especially with the internet too, like you such a wider reach than just kind of like, obviously you meet a lot of people in conventions and tabling, but that's all people that have some sort of geographical
totally
same thing where
and, when
I'm over in Brooklyn.
Yeah, when I was in high school and deciding whether to go to college and what I wanted to do, part of me wanted to go into art. Part of me was like, I should just go into business school. Because back then I was like, how can my art get out there unless I'm like in a like super stuffy art gallery, or like, I didn't see the potential there. And now it's like, you got social media and it's so easy to reach new people with your art. And so as I've seen that's been like so helpful for me. So yeah. It's been great.
Well, one thing that I think that really touches well on too is kind of how the people around you inspire you, or the other like pieces of inspiration that you can find.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about art.
Yay.
All right. So first up, we have Tom Froese, I believe.
I think it's just froze.
Just froze, like Frozone.
Yeah.
And he's a British Columbia illustrator that you said was a big piece of inspiration for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about Tom?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I first came across his art, but there's something about it that just like draws me in. It's so inviting and friendly. And I think what I love most is just kind of like that raw texture he has to his artwork. It's polished, but not too polished. And yeah, he uses a lot of textures. And he's also he has a lot of great online resources where he touches kind of like on the back end side of like what it's like to be an illustrator. And kind of the struggles and working through those struggles as a creative. And so I've really like gravitated towards that, and ultimately his artwork like speaks for itself. It's so great, and his use of color is also really awesome.
Color for sure. I can see parallels between the two of you, and I can also see parallels of understanding of flat compositions that have depth.
Right. And that's, for me, something I still struggle with. Like that piece you have up now, like it's flat, but yet you can see again, the depth with that, and how does he build his compositions, and
like how's that guy so far in the back, even though like there is no perspective.
Right. Like I mean, he uses some shadows and whatnot, but like for instance, the table, right? Like tables don't really look like that if you're looking at somebody straight on that way, but it works, like, and that's what I think I love about his work. It's not too obvious, like,
like, and this one also kind of feels similar to your ukulele one. But once again, there's that foreshortening where it's like, that is a gigantic bottle if that is
right
if that's actually flat. But
I think what's awesome is like that's what makes art and illustration so awesome, right? It doesn't have to be what a bottle looks like. It doesn't have to like be correct, but yet it's the emotion and the feeling that you get from it, which is what it's intended to do, right? So yeah, I love his work.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that you turned us on to him. It's cool
Yeah,
to see his work. And then you also have Shar,
yeah.
Tuiasoa.
Yeah, Shartui Soa. She's a local girl from Hawaii. I haven't had the chance to meet her yet, but she has been like huge inspiration for me. Not only like in her artwork, which it's so awesome, but like she has such a unique perspective and voice. And also, I think with Tom too. Like I look up to them because I love that their career trajectory, like the clients they take on, the work that they do, and that's kind of how I want to formulate my career too. And so I look up to them a lot as far as the opportunities they take and how it fits with their overall messaging and things like that. So
And once again, I can see parallels between the two of you that
yeah,
have like, especially here, the cool geometric shapes that
right,
um,
yeah,
don't necessarily make sense, but
hmm
like
hmm
those are just circles for they're
right,
not, they
right,
don't even
right.
feel separated,
Right. Yeah,
Um,
but your brain can put together what it is, right? So,
yep. And once again, that flatness of the idea of that
mhm.
waterfall being all the way in the background, and I
Yeah.
know that it's super far away, but like
Right, right.
the only things that we have are, I guess, the squiggles in the kind of
Yeah,
foreground,
right, right, right. Mhm,
um,
mhm. Yeah,
which
and
is
so
really
I
cool.
think for me, like Shar, like if they like to me, she's made it, and so I'm like, if she can make it, and she's from Hawaii, she's a local girl, like I can too. So, yeah, I look up to her a lot for inspiration and to keep myself going. Really, yeah.
Now, does she ever do like murals or anything too, or is she mostly just
Yeah, her murals are
business?
great. I think that's probably another big piece of her artwork. Her body of work is mural work, and so
But it's cool. She also has this like merchandise kind of
yeah, she
avenue as well, which
partners
is
with
similar to you.
so many local companies and even big brands. I think that one was for Target, and so yeah, like she's made it in my eyes, and so
I also just love this hair. I know we talked a little bit about it off stream, but
right, yeah,
it is bold to just
yeah.
that much.
Which is a lot of her work, right? And it kind of fits into I think her narrative and her perspective, which plays through in the women that she depicts with their big hair and things like that. So
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like it's the fact that it's just so flat, like it's
right,
so like it is.
hmm
If I were to make it, I would get worried about it, and I'd be like, "Oh, I need to put some strands of hair in there or something
right,
to show that there is like
right,
something there." But to leave
right,
it blank is like such a flex, and it's
yeah,
so pretty.
yeah.
Um,
It works out so great.
it's
Yeah,
just so cool. And yeah, well, thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing that with us for some art talk. I love being able to see what kind of inspires you, and
yeah,
I also really like seeing how your work is always evolving. So
yeah.
I want to hop into from this to that.
Okay, sounds
From this to that.
So I went ahead and I went all the way back down on your
God.
Instagram and tried to find some really old work and tried to then be able to apply it to now. Of course, when I say really old work, I know you said you lost your job back in 2020. So
Yeah,
believe it or not, we're in 2024. So that was
yeah,
4 years ago now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I just wanted to see kind of how you felt between pieces that we
Sure.
have here. So on the right, we obviously have the Christmas piece that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Right,
But then on the
right.
left, we have right at the beginning kind of COVID when we were still talking about like washing your hands.
Yeah, and this
Um,
one really was about, mom life.
mhm.
How could I represent what, new moms go through in a kind of like unique way? So, yeah, I mean, my work has changed so much, and even looking back at it now, it brings me back to where I was, all those years ago. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like carefree, like more of my like what do you say, like my way to get out all the emotions and things I was going through at the time. Obviously mom life was huge. Being home with two kids all day every day, was a big one for me. And so yeah, I don't know if my color palette has changed. It was a little bit maybe softer and a
Yeah.
little bit more muted than it is now. But again, I like the blues and the reds and the orange. So
Yeah, so I
and
feel like
again,
that still makes its way through.
yeah,
But to your point, yeah, I think that you're way more saturated now.
right, right.
And there's higher contrast, which like
Hmm.
both are a vibe, but
Yeah,
it's just interesting to see kind of that switch between the
yeah,
two. Next up, we have this one on the left, and then
yeah,
the ones that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Can you
yeah.
tell us a little bit more about this one on the left?
Yeah, so that one was when I like officially started an Etsy shop, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like start it. And so I did this fun little graphic to kind of say, hey, I'm open for business. And I think I even like animated the open sign just lighting up a little bit.
Yeah, that's
And then
something that
yeah,
we haven't actually been able to take a quite a look at too, is that you add subtle animation to a lot of your pieces.
yeah, which I give huge props to animators and motion artists. Like it's a lot of work, and I can't even wrap my head around like how you even bring it all to life. So again, I just do very minimal, simple stuff.
But
But
minimal can go such a long way too. I mean, that's part of
true,
it. It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah. I
similar
mean,
to
I
the
would
hair we
love
were
to
talking about.
learn more, and maybe there's a quicker way or easier way to do it. But yeah, but yeah, I love it. Yeah,
We
so that
check back
was
in with you like 3 years from now, and you're like, "Here's my animated short that I made."
right, right, yeah. Well, and the technology these days too, right, is
Right.
so good. So I'm sure there's something out there that could help me do it, but I'm not ready yet for that. So, oh
I
yeah, so
love
yeah.
this
Mhm.
this face mask that also is kind of standing as a pool.
Right.
And this is obviously early COVID times.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I wanted to also include it because I know we talked a little bit about it a few minutes ago, but
Yeah.
just your change in representation of people. Like
Yeah.
you really switched from not entirely anatomically correct, but like
Yes.
more
Yeah.
realistic to really taking some bold claims of
Right.
like that
And I
gigantic
and I
hand.
think like I love to draw people and things like characters and things like that, but that's the struggle, right? I think it's like how do you represent them? Is it like super proportionate and accurate, or do hey, my hands are like really big or my legs are really long, or and I think that's where you interject your style, and that's where it comes through. So I'm really trying to push myself to not have to be so correct in the way the hands are, the faces, how they're standing. So and the things that I gravitate towards, like things that I like, are those illustrations where yeah, those people are just like they look goofy, but like I'm drawn to it. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm like, okay, well, I need to kind of step out of the box and push myself a little bit. And
It's
so,
visual interest, you know?
yeah, right, right. And I think in the beginning, yeah, I was trying too hard. And I mean, as probably most people do, to be really correct and accurate. But yeah, like for instance, that image there. And again, another thing I did in the beginning was a lot of like line work, like versus using shading or coloring to kind of like separate body parts and things like that. So
Yeah, you definitely have moved away from the idea of making yourself constrained by a line.
right,
You are way more confident with, I mean, you look at like the elbow of the guy on the
right,
right piece, the guy on the left.
right,
His elbow is just out into that white, but
right, right, without,
you have the
yeah.
confidence now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still, a lot of times I'm like, oh man, it would be so much easier to just like outline it, right? Then I don't have to
Right.
worry too much about making sure people know what is what. But it's just playing around with it, and maybe it's just moving colors around or things like that. So but yeah, I
No, and
mean,
I think the final piece is better for it. I think
right,
that
right, agree, yeah.
nothing to be wrong with outlines, but I think
Hmm,
that being
hmm.
pushed is the way to
Yeah, totally.
really come to something cool. Bruce is saying, I like the mask illustration with all sparkles.
Oh,
So he's agreeing already.
yeah. And again, a lot of those earlier illustrations are really like just my visual diary, if you will, of like things I was struggling with at the time. And yeah, it was just my way to get it all out. And so,
No, but it's
yeah,
so cool to see how much you've changed within the last 3 to 4 years. It's like
yeah.
we'll have to do another one in 3 to 4 years from now.
Yeah, I know. I know
See.
sometimes I feel like too, like, oh, is it bad if I'm like changing, like, and I think,
No.
yeah,
Tell us
well,
about it.
yeah, like, how do I stay consistent in my style? Is it working against me if I change it up? And I think like Tom Froese also brings that up a lot. It's like how to be consistent with your style. Like, do you have to be consistent? Yeah.
I don't think so, but I mean, you
Yeah.
also find ways that you subconsciously,
Right.
channel yourself as well.
Right. Totally.
All right. Well, let's switch it up a little bit into some faster conversation. Let's hop into 20 quick questions.
Okay.
20 quick questions.
So these are kind of just some rapid fire quick questions to
Ooh.
get to know you a little bit more. Yeah, let's just hop right into it. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
You're left-handed. Okay.
I'm
Did
left-handed.
you learn sports or anything right-handed?
I'm all right-handed when it comes to sports and
That's
and
what I
things
feel
like
like always happens.
that. Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. Yeah. I'm usually
Um,
opposite. Yeah.
and then what's the best color?
Ooh, tough one. I do like yellows and greens. I think I gravitate towards those colors.
What's the worst color?
Red. I think red and purple, like just the like primary red and purple colors, like those are difficult for me.
It's interesting to hear you say that because I feel like I categorize the yellows and oranges closer to red. Like I would put that all under a bucket.
I guess
And so
so.
it's
Yeah.
interesting.
When I see like just like the basic red, like it's such a strong dominant color that I feel like sometimes it's hard to work with. But
No, I get that.
yeah.
What's the best shape?
Circle. It's
Okay.
kind of free form. It doesn't have to be,
Likes the curves.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing to draw?
Oh, I think hands and like toes are hard to draw.
Toes.
Yeah.
Specifically toes, not even feet. Toes.
Well, like just the way your hands bend and I always struggle with that when drawing people, especially. So
What's the easiest thing to draw?
ooh, I do like still life stuff. It's simple and
What's the hardest thing to animate?
everything. Everything, even just simple things like things flying across the screen or whatever. Like, oh man, everything is hard. So
What's the most productive hour of the day?
probably between 8:30 and 10 after I drop my kids off for school and it's like nice and quiet here. You just jam out.
What's the best medium?
I'm biased digital.
Okay, then what's the worst medium?
I did try oil painting in college, and that was pretty challenging. It's a lot of like things you gotta mix, and then it doesn't dry right away, and so yeah, that one was challenging.
No, this slowness of oil
Right.
has always been something that has frustrated me. Like everyone's always like, oil is better than acrylic, but I was like, acrylic, I can fix something within the same day, like
Right.
as opposed to oil.
Right.
Wait
Yeah.
a week.
Totally.
Fueled by coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee always.
Do you put anything in your coffee?
Yes, just cream.
Just cream.
Yeah.
What's a piece of client feedback you hear too much?
Ooh, I think I feel like I hear a lot of like, it doesn't look like X. So like if you're drawing a flower, like it doesn't really look like that flower. And I think that's a lot of times like as a creative working with somebody who's maybe not so creative, it's like finding that medium in between right there. So like it needs to look like this.
Yeah.
But my job as an artist is to make it look, add that style or whatnot.
Artistic.
Right. And so, that's why they're coming to you. But I feel like that is one I often struggle with when doing.
In the chat, by the way, Mike is saying you can put your oil painting in the oven you can put your oil painting in the oven overnight to dry, which sounds like a good way to accidentally cook your painting.
Interesting. I didn't know that, but yeah, maybe.
Oh yes, or in the backseat of your car on a hot summer afternoon. These all sound like very dangerous ways to accidentally poison yourself.
Yeah. Right.
What's the first thing you draw when drawing a character?
First thing I draw is usually just like big boxy shapes, right? Like their general like position or composition, and then I go in and refine, and I do the like finer details last, obviously.
How many unread emails do you have in your inbox?
Oh, 0.
Inbox 0.
Yeah, I cannot have like unread emails. It just will like be on my brain, so I got to get through them all.
You did respond super fast when I reached out to you.
Yeah, I hate that it just lingers there, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to forget about it. Or
What's the best background noise for work?
No noise, actually. Like my kids are screaming all day, so if it's quiet, I'm so happy.
I thought you were gonna say the best background noise is screaming children.
No way. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, after I drop them off, it's just like quiet time. So.
Do you do white noise or anything, or is it just full silence?
You know, occasionally I'll do like instrumental music, things that don't have words or anything like that, but usually it's just no noise.
One long project or a bunch of tiny projects?
Ooh, I think I prefer a bunch of tiny projects. I feel like one long one, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of, stress to get it right, versus tiny ones you could just knock out.
No, I get that. Finish filling the sketchbook or just buy a new one?
I think filling the sketchbook. Yeah, I just will doodle randomly, and no need to buy a brand new one.
Now, what kind of size sketchbook do you normally
I just like buy a standard size one. Yeah, just random.
It's like 8.5 by 11 kind of.
Yeah. My daughter will draw in there too. So
huge. That's really cool, of like a timestamp.
Yeah.
Kind of when all the work was created. That was a side question. That doesn't count to the 20. Don't count them. All one layer or multiple layers?
Multiple layers always. Yeah.
Layer queen.
I hate it, but yeah.
No, I'm right there with you.
It's so important. Yeah.
What color background do you work on?
White normally. Yeah. If it's a client project and I know like where it's gonna be, I'll usually try and add that first. But if I don't know at the beginning, I'll just do white.
How about with a mural? Does that change when you paint down the first layer?
Again, it might just depend. Like, sometimes they want like the whole background changed, or they're like, oh no, we want to keep the entire wall white and then add your mural on top of it. So
it's really situational.
Yeah.
And very last one is, what is their favorite art class you ever took?
I only ever took one art class, and that was that oil painting class in college. And I absolutely hated it. So yes, it's hard like to be taught. I mean, I guess the techniques and stuff they teach you is valuable, but art is so subjective that it's like so hard to be judged on your creativity or your point of view. So but that was while I was in business school, so
that was probably a nice reprieve in its own way, even if it was annoying with oil painting.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's 20 questions. Blew right through them. Thank you for doing that. One thing I would love to talk about, since we were talking about kind of business school and art as a reprieve, but art also as a business, is the idea of burnout. What do you do when you're feeling burnt out?
I wish I had an easy trick or way to not feel burnt out, but I think what I find most helpful is just, finding support. So, whether that means, my husband helps with the kids, or, takes them on the weekend, or my mom. Again, my mom is watching my kids right now. So
thanks, Mom.
Support. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I just said thanks, Mom.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. So it's super helpful, I think. Yeah, finding support is crucial, especially when you're like, taking on all this work. And even maybe if it's just like a friend to like get all your stresses out, and somebody to just talk to. Because I think like as freelancers, we don't have like coworkers, right? Or we don't have like people we can ask advice from or things like that. So I think finding support is super helpful in kind of alleviating that stress and pressure you feel often when you're like on the verge of burning out. So Yeah.
And yeah, so you're illustrating fully from home?
Yes, from home in my office / laundry room. So yeah, we make it work. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
at
mean
least it
that's a
smells
good
wonderful.
thing.
Best
Yeah,
smelling studio that you can get.
yeah, it's a good thing, but it's also sometimes hard, right? Because it's like clocking out mentally and physically is hard when you're like your
Right there.
office is right there, right? And I think a lot of us, during COVID kind of realized that too. So it's a struggle, it's a challenge, but I'm finding ways to, again, not be afraid to ask for help or
Yes,
support.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
Well, we only have a few minutes left. Unfortunately,
Okay.
time is flying by. But I do want to touch on one last segment that we have, which is I didn't know that was there.
What? I didn't know that was there.
Oh, and real quick before we hop into that,
Yes.
Rick asked the question that I asked before we got on stream. What is Makapu, the sign over Kelsie's head?
Oh
mean?
yeah, that's a popular surf spot here on Oahu. My friend from Hawaiian Standards, a local company here, they make these like custom pennant banners. So check him out. Yeah.
No, perfect.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that was there. Obviously, of your process of creating work. This is the
Yeah.
whole idea of creating something and then later finding out that it's pivotal to your workflow or
Yeah.
just something that's really helpful for others.
Yay. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but right now I still see your sketchbook, so I don't know if it's
Oh, okay, wait, let me
application
close.
specific.
Okay, there. How about now? No?
Oh no, because I think you were just sharing just that window. I think
Oh, okay, there we go. Got it.
And we're good. Yes, there it is.
Okay, cool.
Look at this little guy. What is this dude?
Yeah, so this is like something I did for a client for the upcoming Chinese New Year. So this is like the lion dance head that moves around. So one of the first things that I like to do, and again, this is maybe very basic to most people out there, but I love it. It's just like a simple duplicate. So I'll take this line and I want to duplicate it. So I just press my Alt key. I'm on a PC. And then you get that kind of like double arrow there. So you just drag your item and then it'll duplicate. So super easy, but I love it. I use it all the time versus like copy, paste, things like that.
Yeah, I remember always doing that too. I was always copying and then going to like edit, paste in place,
Yeah.
and then like going like holding on the shift and like moving it over.
Right, and then you can move it exactly where you want to versus like removing it after you paste it.
Yeah, which is super helpful.
And the next one, which I discovered only recently, is so I want to get this one here to look like this one here. So these lines I want to put inside the red circle. So one way I'll do that is just select these. So I'm going to cut it. And then I'll select my circle shape. And then there's the draw inside button. I don't know if you can see my arrow here, but you just hit it. And so anything I do now will draw inside of this shape. So since I cut those two lines, I'm just going to paste in place. So those lines go right back where they were. So
what? Okay. I just learned that.
Oh, really?
I'm always doing clipping masks. I'm always doing like entering isolation mode or whatever, but the draw inside with a paste is that's new for me.
Yeah, it's so helpful. You don't have to do it that way, like cut and paste. You could just draw directly once you're in that
but I
mode.
mean the cut and paste is next level.
Yeah, so for me that just helps. Like I know that's where it's going. I'm just gonna cut it and then paste it right in there. So
well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing those with us. That's awesome. Cool. And yeah, unfortunately we're at time, but thank you so much for hanging out and talking us through all your work. Where can we find you online real quick?
Oh, you can check me out on Instagram. It's just Kelsie Dayna, or my website, kelsiedayna.com.
Perfect. All right. And I hope you have a good day because you have a morning now and everything ahead of you.
Yeah.
And we'll make sure that we check you out online. Thank you so much, Kelsie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that's it for Kelsie. I am not Kelsie. This is not right. This is incorrect. I have to change that. But we'll be back in just a few. But that was a really great episode. If you're watching the replay, you can check all the different stuff on YouTube. And then if you're here live, make sure you check it on out because we've got more episodes coming to you real soon. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for everyone in the chat, too. I just have to go before we get cut off. So you know who you are.